All right, my brothers, welcome to the finance pillar of the Brotherhood. All right, so guys, again, this room is always about no ego, no flexing, just the truth, being honest and sharing and just leveling up together. So I just want to thank all of you guys, especially for being here today. Appreciate you immensely. And for all of you guys watching the recording, this is going to be quite a special content that we're going to deliver today. To start, this is a pillar that I have avoided a lot of my life. Money has been one of the biggest sources of stress and shame I have felt as a man. I grew up with messages: money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are selfish, that guy driving the BMW is an asshole. So I learned a belief that I did not see until later in life, that if I have money, I'm going to become somebody that I don't want to be. And I ran from that belief for a lot of my life. Now at 18, when I was a freshman in college, a bank gave me a $5,000 credit card. I told myself I was going to use it for emergencies. When you're 18, everything feels like an emergency. I maxed it out within 2 years. I didn't know what I was doing. I have a 20% interest rate, and I was just burying myself financially. That was mistake number one. Now, there are times that I got bailed out by what I like to call angels in my life. A couple of times here and there, someone would step in, help me, give me a saving grace and get my head above water. But because I had not changed my beliefs yet, I just went right back to drowning and just surviving rather than thriving. Now, one thing I did have was work ethic. I worked my ass off. I could make money, I could hustle, but I couldn't just hold it. And more money came in, more money flew out. And I used it to make myself feel like I was enough. I spent it to look successful, to flex, to impress women. For years, my bank account would hover around $1,000 to $2,000, just constant stress. And during COVID, I just broke. I remember shoving my face in a pillow and just screaming so nobody could hear me, with tears coming out of my eyes. I kept asking, why is this happening to me? And it was not life doing it to me. I was doing it to me. Not because I was lazy, not because I didn't care, because I was living out an identity I never questioned. I did not trust myself with money. I did not believe I deserved it. I did not know how to hold it. And there's another part that you really need to tell the truth about. Money didn't just affect me, it affected my marriage and my family. From 2021 to about a year ago, my business had the hardest stretch it's ever seen. I was buried financially. I was trying to keep it alive. I was grinding, but it just wasn't enough. And I felt like I was just failing June. She was pregnant. Instead of me being able to provide for her the way that I promised her I would, she had to go get an hourly job, no paid maternity leave, not enough time to rest. Now, luckily, I had been doing some good money habits, and I had saved a nest egg from 2020. By the time my daughter was born, I was starting to run out. And I felt like that meme, again, with the dog in the fire, just this is fine, when everything definitely wasn't fine. And I just know what financial shame feels like. I know what it's like to look in the mirror and question your worth as a man. And I know there's also a way out, not by hustling, not by working harder, not by pretending that it's fine, but by rebuilding the identity that drives how we use money in our lives. Now, as I preface this, I'm still learning. I'm not here as the guy who's figured this all out. I'm here as a man who's bled in this arena and just refuses to hide it. I want financial leadership for all of us, not to flex wealth, to build peace, so our families never have to fear that feel again. Now, this is probably where you guys want to grab some notes. So money is emotional before it's mathematical. And there's three truths that I need to tell you guys about money that I learned the hard way. The first one is that money amplifies you. It doesn't change you, it just amplifies you. So I've seen really selfish people who were poor who became wealthy, and it just makes them more selfish. I've also seen very kind and giving people get more wealthy, and it just expands their kindness and amplifies that even more. It doesn't make who you are, it just amplifies who you are becoming even more. Number two, and this is probably the biggest one I had to relate to the most, is that money, or your bank account, doesn't reflect your patterns. So your bank account doesn't affect your patterns. And no, sorry, it doesn't reflect your patterns. It's not your potential either. But your current habits and beliefs will help build that. And then the third truth of money is that financial stress is often self-worth. Self-worth stress wearing a mask. So it's just more of you reflecting. Like when I was feeling terrible with money, I was more of just like piling crap on me. And it was just compounding it and expanding it even more, again, tends to amplify the things that are going on in your life. So when you're like struggling in other areas of your life and you're struggling a little bit financially, it just exemplifies it even more to that nth degree. Here's a little journal prompt that I'd like you guys to jot down. What did your family teach you about money without ever saying it out loud? So what did your family teach you about money without ever saying it out loud? I'll give you guys a minute there. And if like at least one share would be great. Whenever you guys are done, you like to share, just come off mute and share.
I come from a family of immigrants, that first generation, some second generation. And I think that one thing that was instilled upon me very young is in order to provide, you have to work really hard and that there's never enough money.
And it reminds me of Dax from our favorite podcast.
I feel like there wasn't really much discussion surrounding money. I remember being super young and my folks being like, oh, all right, let's go to Guilford Savings Bank and we'll start a savings account. And that was like, honestly, like there was never really much talk about it, like in almost every regard in a weird way. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? In a sense
Yeah.
of there was never like, all right, let's talk about managing money. It was just like when I was a kid, all right, let's start a savings account. And that's the first thing that comes to mind. That's why
Yep.
I'm just like, whoa, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I remember opening my
That's
first checking
tragic.
account. Yep. But yeah, it was never talked about. If I ever asked my dad, like, yo, what's the rent? What was the rent? I'm just the kid. He's none of your business. So like, I feel
Same.
like that was the constant conversation about money. And I feel like my parents are almost afraid to talk about money when I feel like we need to talk about it more so that we're not in such a, especially when we become adults and this suddenly comes at us and we find so we have to learn the hard way instead of learning it while we're young. So thank you guys for your shares. I appreciate you immensely for that. Let me get back to my PowerPoint here. All right. So going over the psychology money there. Now going to the next section. What I put together, guys, is so I know there's people watching this and that are on that are different spots in their life with money. There's some people that are just starting, some people digging themselves out. I also know some people watching this are multi-millionaires and really set up well financially. And I wanted to work on the psychology first. And then I just want to create some simple systems that are going to apply to essentially anyone, whether you're starting out, you're digging yourself out of debt, or you're already looking pretty good financially. So the first place is stabilize. So this is phase number 1 of the particular program. Give me a second, guys. Pulling up my notes here. All right. So phase number 1 there. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So essentially the goal of phase number 1, guys, is help you create safety. It's to remove chaos and it's to build control. Because you can't increase your income. You can't think about if you're like drowning and on fire, it's hard to like it's hard to see like you building wealth. So if you're in this kind of stage, some simple steps that can go a long way to help with this. First step is just list out every debt that you have in one place. Next to it, have the balance, the minimum, and the interest rate next to it. And then what I recommend you do is make minimums on all of your debts except for the smallest. Now, there's 2 different philosophies of thinking here. There's some people that you say you should attack the highest interest rate, which if you're getting solid at money, I think that's a better route. But if you're like brand new starting this, you want to create some wins really quickly. So the purpose is paying off a small debt as fast as possible. So you feel internally, I can do this. And then essentially what you're going to do is then take the payment from that debt you already paid off and apply that to the next one. Then you just put as much as you can towards that debt while paying the minimums on everything else. And this is essentially what is creating a debt snowball. And attack the smallest first, whatever extra you can find. When it's gone, roll that payment into the next smallest, repeat, and momentum beats math at the start of when you're trying to do this. The next tip, kind of like how I talked about in fitness last week, where you have to start counting your calories to know what you're putting in your body. You also need to start tracking your money so you know where it's going. There's been a lot of times in my life where I feel like I have enough money and I just kind of blindly spend without any plans. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like having an oh shit moment. Oh, where'd that go? I'm sure many of us can probably relate to that moment. One thing that I did to help me start just getting more clarity on my money is I opened up a note section in my phone and every penny I just tracked for a full week or 2. I recommend 2 weeks. You can see more patterns. Doing it for at least a week can go a long way. And what it does is two things. Thing number one, it's going to actually prevent you from spending money because Nick, you're going to want to write that down in your notes sometimes. I don't want to put this down in my notes here. Second thing it's going to do, it's going to help you realize patterns and things that you're just constantly spending money on that you don't even realize. Like I've done this with people before who would go to Starbucks every single day. And it was like $4 here, $5 here, $7 there, $3 there. And for an entire month, they spent $500 going to Starbucks and just didn't even realize it because it's just small little purchases every single day that just add up over the course of time. So again, that's kind of where you want to start first and foremost to kind of get some clarity. And then the last thing I would say is just cancel like one obvious leak that you have in your account. Maybe it's a subscription that you haven't used in months. Maybe that I had an Apple TV subscription that I didn't use for 6 months. It's like, why do I have this still? Or I remember getting a gym membership in my early 20s and then not going to the gym for 6 months. And I'm just like paying the gym money that I'm not even using it for. We all fall into those traps sometimes, especially when we have subscriptions and stuff. If you guys aren't great at looking at your bank statements and stuff, Rocket Money has a really good feature in here. It's free to start and it can show you all the subscriptions and stuff that you have throughout the month and really notice some things that you're just obviously not seeing because of line of sight. And then I would say the last thing to do here, guys, is have a Sunday money review. I think that would probably be one of the more important things to have. This is the thing I'm working on the most, trying to do consistently with June. I am definitely not perfect at this, but it's definitely something I am working on to help Mike out. So it's kind of doing like a weekly assessment of, so essentially looking at your finances. Hey, what money came in this week? What money went out this week? And what changes are going to be coming up for the next week? Bills that need to be paid. Your daughter has a tuition that needs to be paid. Something you kind of get what I'm saying there. So kind of just do a quick little assessment of your money every Sunday to have some clarity on it. Now, I'm going to be very forthright with you guys. When you first start doing this, especially if you're like eating it right now, this is not going to be your favorite time of the week. In fact, you're probably going to be like, I don't want to do this at all. So this is like going to the gym for the first time when you haven't worked out in a year. I don't want to go to the gym. It's just building the habits more than actually, even if you do it for 5 minutes and you just look at it and you just get pissed just to know what you have, it at least is going to help you start it. Like one thing I helped somebody with going to the gym when they were first starting is just go for 5 minutes. Just go for 5 minutes and then leave. It's just getting into the gym and getting their shoes on. It's just getting to the habits of getting all that stuff moving and just creating those habits to begin with. So again, for recap, list out every debt that you have and attack the smallest one using the debt snowball method. Get some 7-day cash clarity on your money with what you're spending on a week-to-week basis. There's also apps for this. You guys could probably download, again, like Rocket Money, stuff like that to help you budget so you can do a little bit faster. AI, you could probably throw your bank statements into AI and probably do that really quickly too. And then a Sunday money review. I say the Sunday money review, guys, would be like that non-negotiable standard one that I'm going to hold myself accountable to as well as we move forward here with the program. Now, phase number two, I should say, is strengthen. So I think this is where I'm at right now. So I've built some of those basic habits and I've got my head above water now. And now I'm in that part where I'm strengthening. And eventually I want to start scaling it on phase number 3, which I'm going to teach you guys about here in a moment. Okay. All right, perfect. And then phase 2. So strengthen. So the goal of phase number 2, guys, is to build habits that make you trust yourself with money. So I want to help you guys pick some financial standards with yourself here. So you guys can see some financial standards I gave as some examples on the left there. Paying yourself first with an automatic weekly transfer. That's the thing I first started doing when I first started getting solid with money. Is I try to take as many of the payments, investments out of my hand as much as possible. And I just make it automatic and it just automatically happens every single week. Let's say as an example, I have 10% of my check every single week just going into a withholdings account with my company. And at the end of the year, I either use that for taxes or I just throw that more into my investments. It kind of also creates an emergency fund for me. So if I need some extra money on the side where things might be a little slow, I can just pull that out very quickly. So the habits are more important than the amount. That's probably the biggest thing I want you guys to take a note of is the habits are more important than the amount. Even if you're making, I doubt any of you guys right now are making $100 a week, but even if you're just making $100 a week and you're just putting $10, $20 aside, that's a massive step. Now, obviously, as you Charles, obviously I taught this when you were like 18 or 19, when you're like 25, getting in your 30s, when you're making way more money now, you're making $2,000, $3,000 a week. You still have the same habits though. You just put 10 to 20% of that versus, so that's what, $300 to $600 versus the 20 that you had when you were younger. So again, it just builds up as you go, because you obviously just make more money as you get older, hopefully. The next financial standard you guys got. Now I'm going to have you guys pick a couple of these. I'm not telling you what standard you should pick your own life, have your own, but I would say pick a couple of these to start off with. The next one would be no impulse spending for 30 days. This is one thing I had to teach I love shiny, nice new things. So I had to teach myself not to just recklessly spend everything when I got it. That was probably the big, like every time I got paid when I'm in my 20s, oh my God, I got all this money. Let me go to the bars, that fancy new shirt, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I was trying to impress people, not trying to impress myself. I was trying to just have that clout. So one thing that helped me do this is when I wanted a big purchase, I did two things. I asked myself, do I really need this right now? And then I would let myself think about it for 2 or 3 days, because usually in 2 or 3 days, you don't need it anymore, because it's usually an enthusiasm type of thing. And then the second thing is you can plan big purchases in advance and just start saving money for that. Charles, example, you want to buy a new laptop, or I know you do a lot of DJing. Do you want to buy the software, upgrade new software or something like that? I don't know, but maybe it's $2,000 to do that. You don't want to spend that all on once or put it on a credit card. Start saving $100 a week, or whatever that amount is per week. And then when you have that, you just pay for it then and there. And again, the Sunday review, guys, I would say is non-negotiable. Make that a very big priority within your plan on a week. To put that in your calendar. I put it in mine the other day, so that June and I are just consistently doing that on a week in and week out basis. So I find a lot of the stress, especially when you do get married and you start having kids, a lot of the fights and arguments and stress that comes along with marriage, usually 90% of the time revolves around finances or some version of that. Talk about money here, guys. I want you to replace shame with brotherhood. If you're nervous about this, Nick, I know you have conversations about this. It's not something that you're super proud of. I wasn't proud of this either when I first started either, but you got to own that first to be able to make progress moving into it's kind of like if you're an alcoholic, you have to admit that first. Somebody else can't tell you to go to AA or anything like that. You have to make that decision on your own. And then phase 3, guys, is to scale. And this is where it starts to get really fun. I'm starting ink towards this a little bit more, and I'm starting to think about a lot more stuff here as well. But the goal here is just pick a lane and just stick with it. I always say when you're scaling, do what you're most excited about and what you know the most. As an example, my mentor, Kyle, has made millions off stock. So I just learned a ridiculous amount of stuff about the stock market, reading charts, investing, all that stuff. It's something that I love doing. It's the first thing I do every single day. So it's something that's going to fire me up when I see my money growing on a consistent basis. I do a lot of index funds. I pick blue chip stocks. Do a little swing trading here and there every now and then. But I say if you do index or stocks or anything like that in general, guys, just automate it monthly and just dollar cost average. What dollar cost averaging means is you just put the same amount in at the same time every single month, the 1st of every month or the 15th of every month. You put in the same amount. Nobody can time the market. 98% of hedge funds can't even beat the Standard & Poor's index fund, which is the S&P 500. And if you guys look at the S&P 500 over the last 100 years, on average, it's gone up 10 to 12% every single year. It went up 28 last year, to give you guys an idea. So yeah, I know more about this than anything else, but yeah, this is something I'm passionate about. So you guys can see, I love doing stocks. So this is where I tend to spend a lot of my time in my investments when I'm scaling. There's also real estate, house hacking, Airbnb, focusing on cash flow and systems. I actually have a few friends that have one of them has 20 Airbnbs already set up. I have another guy that has 50 of them already set up. I know a lot of these people that have built wealth in a lot of these lanes. And one of the things I'm really excited about having over the next few months is bringing on some of these guys as guest speakers. I've already tapped a couple of them to be able to come on and give some messages. How do you start investing? How do you set up an Airbnb or do some real estate investing? I know some guys that are doing really well in crypto and dollar cost averaging in that as well. And then I'd say the fourth one, guys, is just entrepreneurship. Learn skills that are going to help you build wealth for yourself, to do some side hustles and side gigs. Charles, I know you do insurance with your father, but I also know you do DJing and stuff on the side as well. It's like a side gig. Nick, we've talked a little bit about doing some side gigs with nursing and stuff as well. It's kind of the same thing. You guys have a lot of skills. Either keep sharpening those and improve them so you can get paid for them, or learn some other skills that you're excited about at the same time. Again, I know you men winning in each lane, regardless if it's stocks, real estate, crypto, entrepreneurship, whatever it happens to be. Again, very excited over the next few months to bring on some real operators to teach you guys their systems. It's not hype. It's just basic systems. They're going to help you do this. All right. So as we start to wrap up the call a little bit, I want to start doing some reflections and help you guys start reshaping your money journey. So the prompts you guys can see on the screen right here. The first one I'd like you guys to answer is, I think we already worked on this. What was the money story you grew up with then? So we already started that. And then number two, what is one financial standard that you guys want to commit to for the next 30 days? Tracking your money, doing a Sunday review, setting up an auto transfer, not doing DoorDash whenever you get hungry instead of cooking. A simple budgeting tip I could teach you guys while you're reflecting as well is called the cash envelope system. And that's essentially where you make a budget for what you want, dining out, your expense, whatever you guys want to do, going out to eat, getting haircuts, stuff like that. At the beginning of the month, you just have envelopes for all these and you just put cash into them. And then that's your budget for the month. And once the cash is done, you don't do that thing anymore for the rest of the month. I find spending cash is harder to spend than a card. I don't know if you guys know that. That's why credit cards, they can tap now. The less movement you make on a card, the easier it is for you to make that purchase because it doesn't feel like you're actually spending money. It feels like a game. Banks are really smart. These credit cards used to do the slide, then they created the insert, and now they do the tap. Just gets faster and faster every time. And if any of you guys are like me, when you first started with money and you had that kind of childhood growing up where it wasn't talked about, it was hushed, there was a lot of stress revolving around it. A really good book that helped me get over that mental aspect was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I believe it's by Darren Hardy. It's a really good book to kind of just help me mentally get out of that state. Because if you guys have that state, you can do all the money stuff you want, but there's this internal barometer in your body and your mind that if it gets too hot, your body's going to naturally want to cool it down. So you got to work on the mental stuff, because I didn't feel like I deserved money when I was younger. So every time I would get it, I would just self-sabotage. When you guys finish up, just know your standard for the month. I'm gonna tell you guys mine's just to do my Sunday review with my wife. Make sure we're on top of our finances on a weekly basis. No, we're both painfully and begrudgingly going to be doing it. How are we doing, boys? All right. Who wants to share their standard for the month? Things right now.
I guess for me, I did for standard the weekly, the Sunday financial recap. I have to start off with listing out my debts and interest rates and shit, and then take it from there.
Cool. Love it. So again, it's not a fun thing to do the first time.
I'm not looking forward to this.
You're going to have to nut up and do it.
Yeah.
One of those suck it up buttercup moments. What about you, Charles? You're on mute, bud.
So my standard, as in just like is that your goal for the month?
Yeah. So what's the one standard that you want to start for like the next 30 days with finances? Whether it's setting up auto withdrawals, doing a weekly review. I had a few other examples there. Not impulse spending and stuff like that. Tracking your spending.
So I think my biggest thing right now is increasing the amount of money coming in per month.
Okay.
Not caring about what's going out and not budgeting, but how can I position myself in a way where more money comes in each month, whether that's through acquiring new skills, building out new systems. But this is like a recent mental reframe I've begun to adopt because it's not necessarily one of my biggest strengths is managing money well, but I find that the more money that comes in, it gets to a point where not that it starts to not matter budgeting, but it starts to at least not hurt me.
Yep.
So it's almost like, how can I position myself to offset any negative sentiments relating money by simply increasing my capacity and being able to generate more income? That's my philosophy for this month is, how can I, whether it's through posting content, whether it's through doing outreach, how can I position myself in a way that I will generate more income by the end of the month?
Okay.
But that's my philosophy in a sense.
If I could just give you a little coaching there, just pick a more specific amount. So like how much more income do you want to create for yourself this month versus just how I want to lose a lot of weight. What does that mean? So do you want to create one extra stream, 2 extra streams? How much more do you, again, I'm getting very specific with you here, but just things to start thinking about with that as well.
Oh, so I would say, how can I generate an extra 5K this month?
Great. That's perfect. So having some systems in place and stuff and just having clear goals instead of having those wishy-washy ones can go a long way for you guys. Awesome, guys. I appreciate your sharing. I appreciate your standards. If you need any help at all with holding to yourself to those, reach out in the group, shoot me a text. I'm very willing to help you out with that as well. So as we start to finish up, guys, again, money is not about being rich. It's about responsibility. It's about being the kind of man who can be trusted by his family and his future. If this has helped you, please share it. Post a clip when I post those, send a replay to a friend, invite one man to join us next week. Next week, I'm traveling, so we're going to have our next call on Monday, the 17th at 8:30. We're going to try a weekday for some people. I feel like the weekends are not good for a lot of people, especially with families. So we're going to try a Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. This topic is going to be the one I probably don't know the most about, but I'm very excited to learn and dive in. But it's brotherhood, community, and faith. So whether you believe in God, you believe in a higher power, just community in general, I feel like that's one of the big cornerstones that has been like, what's the word for it? I feel like that's the biggest thing that's really deteriorated in our society over the last 10, 20, 30 years is just community in general. So everybody's so divided, but I appreciate you guys immensely. I'll stay on for a few if you guys have any questions or want to dig in with anything else, but thank you guys so much for your time and your effort today and your vulnerability. And call number 3 officially over, and we're going to finish up our 4th pillar next week. See you guys.